Welcome to the Monday, December 13th, 2021 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. We will go ahead and start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller.
Present. Alder
Veronica Corpus-Dax.
Present.
Commissioner Sydney Bremer.
Present.
Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Ken Ravinsky.
Present.
All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda for the December 13th, 2021 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Alder Corpus-Dax, a second by Commissioner Bremer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then moving on to the approval of the minutes from the November 8th, 2021 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Alder Corpus-Dax, second by Commissioner Ravinsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then moving on to the approval of the minutes from the December 3rd, 2021 special meeting of the Green Bay Commission.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Alder Corpus-Dax and a second by Commissioner Daniels. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, then moving on to regular business, which will start with a public hearing. This public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Gazette. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or are only providing information in the matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. And we will start with the public hearing on the request to authorize a conditional use permit for a 2-family dwelling in a low-density residential district at 341 Alpine Drive, submitted by Tom Berceau, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can give a real brief overview of the project. This is a vacant lot on Alpine Drive, 341 on the east side of Alpine, north of Newberry Avenue. You can see it highlighted in red here. It's just north of Edison Middle School. This area is pretty much, fully developed already. This happens to be a vacant lot here, zone low density residential or R1. The proposal is for a 2-family dwelling. So under the R1 zoning, a conditional use permit is needed. So hence the request tonight.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul. All right, so with the public hearing, we are looking to take testimony from parties that are looking to speak in favor of this item. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this item? And if you're calling it on internet audio, it is *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello. Hi. Hello.
Hello, if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Andrea Johnson, 387 Windward Road, Green Bay, Wisconsin. I just wanted to let you know that I oppose it. I had talked to Mr. Newmeyer earlier today and also left a message about it. I don't really think that we need to change zoning for one particular property. We have a lot of duplexes in the area. I had some questions. He answered my questions, but that's just my final, outcome is just really opposed to a duplex in the area. I just wanted to stay single family dwelling as it is zoned. So that's my request. One of the issues that I have with it is that it changes the dynamics of a neighborhood who put a duplex in it. There's a lot of duplexes right nearby on Tyrolean, and also right down Alpine. There's a lot of duplexes in the area in general. And I think it's just not necessary. Sometimes duplexes render themselves an easy way for people to get to know the area, as Mr. Newmeyer had pointed out to me, and then maybe they would buy a home. But a lot of times duplexes are just a rental opportunity for people, and rental opportunities do not always lend themselves to homeowners in the area. And it's just that they don't take ownership in general, not all, of the property, as the property owner has to be the one to make sure that everything looks good. They're just not even part of the community because they know they're not staying. So they're not really getting skin in the game. They're not getting their hooks in, and they're not trying to get to know people the way they would as if they own the property. And it really changes a lot of things. So that's just my take. And Mr. Newmeyer knows some other points that I had made earlier. If you want more, I can give you more, but I just don't understand why not just put a single family home up? Why does it have to be a duplex? There's a lot of opportunity to make money with creating rentals. I'm just curious, how did this come about? Why was it the contractor's decision to ask for a duplex, or is this something that the city's planning committee felt that we need to mix it up a little bit and put another, would you be willing to change that and make it into a duplex? I mean, how does that come about?
Well, and Andrea, this is actually the comment to address to us. And actually your 3 minutes are up, but these are just the comments you two would make to us. And we certainly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to address those comments to us.
Okay, so then how do I get the answers to my questions then? Who do I go to for that? You
can certainly ask any questions and it will come back up in regular business. This is the public hearing portion of this. The next item is the actionable item where we will discuss it.
Oh, sorry. Did I chime in when I wasn't supposed to?
Oh, no, you're certainly welcome to chime in on the public comment portion of it as well.
Oh, okay. I guess I don't know how it all works. Sorry.
Okay. All right. No problem. Thank you. Was there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this item? Was there anyone wishing to provide information only on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the actionable item, item number 2, consideration with possible action on a request to authorize a conditional use permit for a 2-family dwelling in a low-density residential district at 341 Alpine Drive, submitted by Tom Berceau, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, the property is located at 341 Alpine Drive. east side of Alpine between Canyon Bluff and Old Coach Road. These lots were, I think, created probably in the early 1990s or so. For whatever reason, this lot was not built upon. But we find a lot of single-family homes in this particular area. Across the street is a Georgia Pacific landfill that is not a buildable site. So for the most part, this neighborhood is pretty much built out. Looking at the zoning, again, you see a lot of yellow. This represents the low-density residential zoning district. Future land use, our comp plan recommends low-density residential. So this conditional use permit is in keeping with that low-density requirement. The request before you is for a two-family dwelling. So there's not a change to the zoning district here. It's simply a conditional use permit. The applicant has provided some details about what the duplex is going to look like. That's attached within your agenda. I do have up on the screen kind of a grainy version of that, those elevations. You can kind of see the front here where the garage doors are in the middle with the primary entrances on the outside of the building. So this would be one driveway to Alpine. And it's a story and a half home. It's like it has some brick on the lower level, maybe a knee wall with vinyl siding. Also attached within the agenda is the site plan, kind of showing the general layout. Again, if you can kind of see that here with Alpine Drive, the home being centered in the middle, kind of really meets kind of our basic standards. And when looking at a conditional use permit, there are those basic standards that we have. Those are included within the report. Our staff believes this request meets those standards as proposed. With that said, we did notify property owners within 200 feet. We do have about, I think, 4 letters that we received at the time of the drafting of our staff report. I did receive a call from Andrea Johnson, which you just heard from before, at 387 Windward. And I also received an email from Alder Corpus Stacks from Robert and Kathleen Shedd at 333 Alpine Drive. They're also opposed to this request. I also just want to mention as well, commissioners may remember 2017 Wisconsin Act 67 that somewhat limits the Plan Commission's ability to restrict conditional use permits. So, one of those issues would be having to find facts or substantial facts or opposition to this, not just speculation or comment from the public. So I just wanted to pass that along. But with that said, staff is recommending approval of this request, subject to the compliance with all other regulations of the municipal code not covered under this CUP.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Paul. Go ahead, Commissioner Bremer.
Thank you, Chair Hansen. Paul, I just wanted to follow up one of the things that Ms. Johnson just mentioned. You said that it was single family housing all the way around this area. That is the report that you submitted to us. Can you be a little more specific about that? She seemed to be concerned about a number of duplexes moving into the area that wasn't reflected in your report.
Yeah, I don't know that I find a lot of two-family dwellings in that neighborhood. Predominantly, it's single family. I mean, it depends how far you want to go down the streets, I guess. But I didn't see anything immediately. It maybe is strangely odd to have a vacant lot like this and a two-family located in the middle of single-family homes. But I think it's compatible, so to speak. It is still a low-density use, and there's certainly not a saturation issue here of two families. So again, that's kind of the reasoning behind our staff's recommendation.
I appreciate very much Ms. Johnson taking the opportunity of the public hearing just to let us know what some of her concerns were. And they are certainly echoed by several other people in the area. As you've mentioned, the state does not allow us to basically poll current residents and find out whether or not they approve of something or not. But it does allow us to take into consideration particular issues. And the one that stood out to me had to do with safety, particularly for young people going to the nearby elementary school. And I noticed that the plan for this particular duplex has the two garages right next to each other, which allows for larger green space on the edges of the lot. I wonder, have you seen anything more specific about the site plan that would also indicate that those driveways were not going to go just straight out from the door, but would be limited in their width?
We haven't got that far. So the site plan really is conceptual at this point. There does have to be some separation between the drives. There has to be some green space, but that's a detail that'll get worked out as part of the details with the site plan once that comes in. As far as backing down onto Alpine, it's no different than any other single family home driveway. It's just that there's one driveway shared by 2 units. That's acceptable for 1 and 2 families to back out. Commercial or multifamily, it is not, but it doesn't necessarily present a traffic issue based on its density.
I have lived in a duplex that was a very similar model, and I thought it was very handsome, and this one is also nicely done, and I think the style does fit in well with the area. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, Alder Corpus-Dax.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Paul, can you answer, or Mr. Newmeyer, can you answer Mrs. Johnson's question regarding how this came forward to the Planning Commission? I know how it came forward to the Planning Commission, but just so that everyone else is aware, it's not generated by us.
Sure, and some of that might be better addressed by the applicant. And I'm not sure they're on this call. They were certainly invited to this, and I encourage them to participate. But this application came in several months ago. I was prompting the applicant to get more details. We finally got that to carry it forward. So really the question about why a 2-family, I think is probably a question better left to the applicant, and how they came to acquire the lot, and why they chose a 2-family over a 1-family use.
Thank you. And then as far as, we get this comment repeatedly when we have these CUPs come through, as far as that, having a duplex come in is going to devalue my property. Have we ever found any evidence of that occurring?
Not directly. There may be studies out there. I'm not sure they're pertinent to Green Bay necessarily. Again, our focus as staff is about the land use and its appropriateness, I guess. And I can't speak to the values necessarily. Market values are something that fluctuate, and so we're in an environment where market rates are much higher than you might see typically. But I was hoping the applicant would be online to maybe speak to some of those issues as well.
Okay. I think the big thing for me, as well as the other commissioners, is that that Wisconsin Act 67 really does limit what we can say no to without, we can place conditions on the applicant, but they have to be reasonable conditions. So there's not, having all the residents around saying, no, we don't want this, unfortunately, doesn't allow us to say no.
Without some substantial evidence, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's the big thing. It's the substantial evidence. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Rinsky.
Yeah, Paul, looking at number 3 for the items here that we have to look at, the conditional use, its exterior architectural design and functional plan. I'm looking at that exterior design, and everything around it is 2-story homes. And I'm seeing that this is a 1-story, which to me doesn't seem like it fits that block face then. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that the home has a bigger appearance, so to speak. I might classify it as 1.5 stories or higher, but you're correct. The homes on either side or maybe down the block are full 2-story homes. I think the challenge here with an infill lot, like any infill, is getting a structure that's compatible with the surrounding homes. And sometimes that's a challenge and may be difficult to dictate as part of this CUP. But again, I think the structure maybe has an appearance of being taller than it is, but it's not a full 2 stories, no.
Okay, I know that I have seen other two-family homes that are two-story, and I think I would be more inclined to be in favor of this if the architectural design fit the neighborhood a little better. I'm not sure. I just wanted clarification if that would be grounds enough per the state statute to put another condition on it if they came back with a different design, or I just, it doesn't seem like it fits to me.
I certainly think that's a fair comment. I think it's acceptable under the code and the way staff looked at it, but I can understand that maybe you may not find it compatible with surrounding structures. Again, if the applicant could address those, that might be able to give you a better response.
I don't suppose you see the applicant on the call, do you, Paul?
I do not recognize, no, I do not, sorry.
I also don't recognize any of the names as being those who have indicated their interest in expressing themselves on this issue. So I don't think it makes sense to open the floor. But I would make a counter comment to Commissioner Ravinsky's. This is a split level. Part of it goes down into a basement level, and then there is a second level on top. It's one of the reasons that it does look substantially large. And I think it's quite a handsome design that would go well with either one or two-story houses on either side, personally.
Paul, I didn't notice conditions listed. Did we have any conditions for this?
We do not necessarily, just outside of a standard, requirements of the municipal code, which kick in our zoning standards, setbacks, heights, and site plan review. So there's nothing specific to the design, so to speak.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't missing it. I think I would potentially be a little more inclined to push for this if maybe we have a condition there dictating something about either landscaping or something similar. I'm not sure if we can do that. But there are some old growth trees on the lot, it looks like. Maybe just some language to try to maintain some of the old growth trees that are possible. Some handsome landscaping, try to make it as minimal of an impact visually, especially considering the older trees in the neighborhood, to some of the neighboring properties there too. I don't know if that's something we could do or want to discuss, but that would, I think, at least give a little bit of an olive branch to the neighbors who are worried about the look and of a duplex coming in. At least make sure there's some investment into the landscaping, the look of it.
Would that be a condition that we could place on there?
I think it certainly could be, sure. It could be the preservation of perimeter landscaping or significant vegetation. I think, sure, it could be wordsmith to allow that, sure. Okay. Again, I was hoping that the applicant would be online to acknowledge that, but I certainly think that's within your powers, yes.
If that's the case, I would move to approve with that condition, and we would maybe want to just work up the wording here to make sure we're covering our bases on it. But and it would be great if they were here. I don't know if it's something that we feel that strongly about that we would want to hold this and make sure that they attend the next meeting. But open for discussion on that.
Is this time sensitive? Paul?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I've been talking to the applicants over several months. I made it hopefully clear to them about tonight's meeting and gave them a link. So I don't believe it's time sensitive now. And certainly not during the winter months at this point.
Okay. I'd make a motion to hold it until the next meeting, and hopefully the applicant can attend or will attend to answer some questions.
Yeah, point of a clarification. I think, didn't Vice Chair Miller make a motion already? So is there two motions on the floor?
I did, but I'll retract it.
I would second the new motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alder Corpus Dax and a second by Commissioner Ravinsky to table this until the next meeting.
Or until the next available, or give us a little, maybe give the staff a little time to work with the applicant potentially.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with the instruction that we want to make sure that they're present for the meeting, and then potentially work up some language on a condition about either landscaping. I think Paul just said perimeter vegetation, that type of thing. Have something ready for that, and maybe that they're agreeable to as well.
Will this also be, will we have to go through the public hearing again, or will this just be a meeting without the public hearing?
Without the public hearing, we'll go right to the action item, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with a voice vote on the motion to table this until the applicant is available. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and that will move forward then, or we'll move forward. It's been tabled.
And it is my understanding that that's tabled with the understanding that there will be some language forthcoming about the perimeter landscaping. Yes, Paul?
Yes, I'll work something up for your review. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And then moving on to item number 3, public hearing on a request to amend ZO 15-18 rail yard PUD, allowing first floor residential uses within the rail yard development area A, located at 419 Donald Driver Way, 406 North Broadway, submitted by TWG Rail Yard LLC property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is David. I'll just give a super quick overview. Let me share my screen quick. Okay, so this is the site itself. It is on North Broadway, just north of Dousman. The site itself is at the northeast corner of Kellogg on Broadway. This is a site that has been previously regulated by a planned unit development that, among other things, requires first floor commercial uses. As you had mentioned in the description, the applicant is requesting an amendment to that plan development only for this specific area to allow first floor residential and first floor residential accessory uses for a majority of the first floor of the building.
Okay, thank you so much, Dave. All right, so with the public hearing, we are looking to hear from parties who want to speak in favor of this item. And again, if you're calling in on internet audio, it's *6 to unmute. And you just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Michael Taft. I'm with the developer proposing this project. Would this also be the appropriate time for us to speak?
You can speak now, but also the actionable item is probably where we would ask any questions or anything. But if you want to make a statement now, that's also fine. Yeah, thank you. I think I would just emphasize that we worked with the community a lot over several years recently to put this kind of project together. We think we're really proud of it. It still looks 99% the same. We have all the kind of permeable storefront features and big patio space against Broadway, still have a good retail anchor on Broadway and Kellogg. I think we have a lot of great pieces happening in this building, but basically with COVID impacts on the retail and kind of office market, as well as with our new kind of mixed income financing structure, basically effectively penalizes retail space in an odd way. So this is kind of where we ended up replacing a little bit of the retail with what is community space that still feels very dynamic and vibrant and has storefront glass and all the kind of same features, but can be underwritten in a more feasible way. So that is kind of the summary, and happy to answer questions in the next section. Okay, thank you so much. And I'm sorry, Did you state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, it was Michael Taft, and then speaking on behalf of TWG Development, which is at 1301 East Washington Street, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Perfect, thank you. Was there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item? Was there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this item? Is there anyone wishing to provide information only? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to item number 4, consideration with possible action on a request to amend ZO 15-18 rail yard PUD, allowing first floor residential uses within the rail yard development area A, located at 419 Donald Driver Way, 406 North Broadway, submitted by TWG Rail Yard LLC, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm jumping back up onto the screen here. So again, as you had mentioned, this is the actual action item. The site again is on the northeast corner of Kellogg on Broadway. Kind of go down again. This is the zoning for the site. It looks like it's this dashed industrial, but there is a planned unit development over the top. And the history behind that really was in 2008, the whole Larson canning site came under control of the Broadway district and the redevelopment authority, and there was kind of a mix of controlling interest in there. And a planned unit development was put all over the top of it that would go from Dousman all the way up north of Bond Street. In 2013, that PUD was amended, and the southern area south of Kellogg was changed, and that PUD was amended in 2018. The area north of Kellogg going all the way up past Bond was amended. Again, so even though the zoning looks like it's industrial, it really has those planned unit developments over the top of it. This is the future land use plan. From our comprehensive plan, you'll see it shows it gray as industrial. However, this is part of our authenticity plan. The authenticity plan is our downtown plan, excuse me, and it does designate the site as a catalyst site for the downtown, appropriate for multifamily, townhomes, commercial, and mixed uses, just to kind of give you that background. As I go down, what's really being requested is really, it's really one thing, but it kind of takes 2 items. So in your staff report, this is the language change. It's really adding 1 section to the land use portion of the planned unit development. And you should have that original one in your packets, and then also the ordinance that just addresses this. So basically what this is doing is first is carving out the site for this project itself, which we're calling A-2. So this is the original development area A, which development area A required first floor commercial or all commercial uses. Development area B was multifamily, and development area C was multifamily. So what's being really requested is to cut that out. And as you can see in the description here, it would allow first floor residential uses within the mixed use building. Staff is recommending that, you'll see a couple language here, that the Broadway frontage must remain active non-residential uses, so not housing units itself, and that it be built to commercial building code standards. And I'll get to that in a second, why we're recommending that. And then also that the ground floor or first floor residential uses that will be located along Kellogg Street have individual entrances. And I'll just kind of go forward a little bit. So site plans, you have 2 of the same site plans, one showing the first floor interiors, and it's got the highlighted sections that are really being discussed and impacted by this request. On the left side is the overall plan itself. So the building is sort of a U-shaped building. It has a breezeway, or a, I don't know what you want to call it, like a tunnel, first floor tunnel going through from Kellogg into the interior for the building, or interior part of the lot. So this is the Broadway frontage. The original proposal that came in, I believe 2019, started construction in 2020, included 225 units. It had full commercial space on Broadway. Along Kellogg Street, it had residential accessory spaces. So the fitness center, the co-working space, I believe there was a community kitchen, community room, leasing office, that kind of stuff was all located on the Kellogg frontage. And then along the driver frontage, Donald Driver frontage, were individual housing units with individual entrances leading onto Driver. Yeah. Some of you were here probably at the time, and you probably remember this coming through. So what I highlighted on the right side is really the two areas of change. It's the 6 housing units that would now be fronting on Kellogg, and then the breakdown of uses within the Broadway building. So I'm going to go to the next slide, which takes it down a little bit better. And I tried to zoom in, but it got a little fuzzy, so I apologize. But they should be pretty good in your packets online. So again, you have the 6 units on Kellogg for the residential portion. And then within this Broadway building, it's about 7,000 square feet. And you can see there's a lot of uses, nothing directly residential. So you have the fitness center and a dog wash up here in the northeast corner. There's a game room, a co-working space, a community room, kitchenette. That encompasses, I would say probably, well, and the leasing office, encompasses probably 6,000 square feet, a little less than that, of this building's square footage. And then there's a commercial spot right on the corner of Kellogg and Broadway. And this is about, I think we had written in the code no less than 1,000 square feet, but it's as proposed is about 1,300 square feet. So really what the developer is proposing, and again, kind of comes into partially into a COVID situation, partially into a financing situation where their finance stack kind of leaned a little more heavy on WIDA, the tax credits, which, as the petitioner had mentioned, really kind of dictate residential uses. And I don't know, I'm not that familiar with them to say that they penalize for commercial, but they don't help, that's for sure. So as the alternative, this is what the development thought. They're going to try to keep that Broadway building as non-residential as possible, keeping an active corner with an outdoor patio here along Broadway. I'll get to the elevations in a second. You'll see them, they're a little bit easier at that point. Then converting the Kellogg frontage to residential. Staff is, we do understand the situation as far as the finance stack, capital stack, and just the, I would say the lack of first floor commercial occupancy, not so much on the Broadway side of town, on the west side of town, but more so on the east side of town. So I'm kind of talk about both of these separately. So for the residential units, we understand that Donald Driver has residential units. One of the conditions of Driver was they have individual entrances. Now, the goal of this planned development, and actually this downtown west side, is to keep an active streetscape. So people walking around, interaction back and forth. Nobody wants to go to an area that's just quiet and you know, dead. So now these units are going to have commercial style fronts. So they'll have a lot of windows, but if we all have seen commercial buildings that went residential, those are usually just blocked off all the time. So one thing that we're going to be recommending in the amendment is that each one of these 6 units have an individual entrance right onto Kellogg. So you have that interaction back and forth, people coming and going. And then the Broadway frontage, as I had mentioned before, this Broadway building be built to a commercial building code standard, not a commercial multifamily building code, but a commercial assembly or retail type building code. So in the future, they can convert. And I kind of use an analogy with some other cities, and one is Milwaukee. I'm pretty familiar with it at the time. You go to Milwaukee 25 years ago, their downtown first floor retail was pretty quiet. There was a lot of vacancies, a lot of empty storefronts. However, if you go there today, especially the 3rd Ward or the 5th Ward, there's very few vacancies. Broadway 20 years ago itself had a lot of vacancies on the first floor. Storefronts, you go there now, I think there's 2 on the entire stretch of on Broadway. So the point we're trying to make with that is that if it's designed for commercial uses, it can convert when the market catches up. So Green Bay's market's a little bit slower. COVID didn't help. But if it's built to a residential standard, it's very difficult to convert it back to even a residential commercial standard, convert it back to a commercial, retail, or office or assembly type standard. So that's kind of the reason we had put that on there. We are very encouraged that the corner is still going to be an active commercial space. It's the most visible spot. TWG did a great job, and you'll see it on the elevation with an outdoor patio space. So with that, I'm going to kind of cruise down to these elevations. I really just did the Broadway frontage. So you can see very commercial in its standard big storefront windows. Again, 5-story building, but you have your signage. And there is an outdoor patio here, which will be a little bit more visible on the perspective. This is the Kellogg frontage. So this is the side of that Broadway building. Again, very commercial in nature. There is a grade change at this point. You have the leasing office and stuff over here. This is that breezeway that cuts through the building into the back parking area. So it just shows an X here, but I'll let you know that the lighting in here is going to be designed to make it very, very attractive. Bicycle parking, there's entrances in this alleyway or breezeway. And then these are where those 6 residential units are going to be located. And TWG did specifically try to retain that storefront look to the north side of Kellogg. So you can see kind of curtain glass windows. We did talk a little bit with them and some other builders, and it's pretty simple to switch these kind of out to put in a doorway. And I believe, I'm not going to speak for TWG or Michael, but I believe they're probably okay with that. So again, the building overall has not changed. I mean, very few changes to the exterior of the building. It's still incredibly high quality. It fits the whole design scheme for the Broadway district and the Larson area. With some of those conditions, we think it'll still remain very active. Not quite as active as retail, but active nonetheless. And I'm going to kind of go to the next slide, which is the flashy pictures, which the ones I love the most. So this is looking from the southwest. So this is that Broadway frontage. Again, very active corner, kind of residential active. However, I believe TWG has mentioned that they would be interested in or be willing to allow the community room and the co-working space to be kind of open to the neighborhood as well. So not just the residents, which would make it a little bit more active as well. So again, this is that corner. This is the Broadway frontage over here. You can kind of see the open area, the storefront along the corner. This is that breezeway we were talking about. This is looking from the northeast. So you're looking down at that Broadway portion of the building. Again, very active as constructed, and kind of lends to that activity. Also, this is a side note. This is part of their art piece that would be going on that site, which also is going to draw people to that area, just because not necessarily this piece of art, but that there will be an art piece there. And then this is looking from the northeast. So this is sort of looking down Driver. And the reason why I put this one in is it's a little bit hard to see with the greenscape, but you can see there's individual entrances going into the units as you go down Driver. A little bit difficult to see, but there you go. So with that, we are recommending approval of the amendment to the planned unit development as in the draft planned unit development that's in your packet.
Okay, thank you so much, Dave. Go ahead, Commissioner Ravinsky.
Thanks, Dave. Really good report. I'm very much in favor of this, and just as I'm thinking about it, thinking about the changes, I think of two other examples right here in Green Bay that kind of go with this. If you look at Metro and Flats on the Fox, they have very similar first floor spaces to this. Looking at Metro, they activated the Riverside portion of their first floor for their community room and exercise room. And towards the Washington Street side, they have commercial there that has been sitting vacant for quite some time now. So I see the value of making that space active and available for their users. And then looking at Flats on the Fox, they also have those, I think they were originally put in, and Dave, I'm not sure if you were with the city at the time when that went in, but some live work units that also have that commercial glass with the doors on the front. So I would definitely want to see that as a condition on there, that those doors get added for that future expansion if that were to ever activate as anything besides residential. So, but yeah, very much in favor of this.
I'll echo some of those comments by Commissioner Ravinsky there too. I think it's a creative use, not exactly what I expected when I knew this was being worked on. It's better than I expected, actually, and I like how there is flexibility for down the road to potentially convert it into commercial. So yeah, I appreciate everyone's work on it. It's creative. I like it. I think it's a good step to take at this point.
Was there any further discussion amongst the commission or any questions for staff?
Sid had her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
That was actually to open the floor so that we might ask Mr. Taft about their agreement to the suggestions that the staff has made. I agree with the others. This is a very nice looking design. So I so move.
I would second.
So motion by Commissioner Bremer, second by Commissioner Ravinsky to open the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. And you wanted to hear specifically, you had Commissioner Bremer, you specifically had questions for Mr. Taft? You're on mute.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here. And I just wanted to ask, as far as the whole business of working to the commercial code for the part along Broadway, and then providing the separate townhouse style entrances along Donald Driver, along Kellogg. Are you all in accord with that?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think that we can easily add those doors onto the Kellogg facing units. And really, since day one on this project, we've designed the whole building so that you could pretty much convert everything facing a public right of way to commercial in like 2 days of work. Like, it would be a pretty easy switch over. So I think we have a good plan on there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to have us keep in mind?
On my part, no, I don't think so. Yeah, I think I would say that if you hear anything from the public on the project, it's been quite a journey through COVID and through, I'm sure you've all heard about various construction woes right now. But I think we are pretty close to getting this thing started as soon as the winter passes in early spring, and start moving with construction and make it a great project in addition to Green Bay. So thank you.
It certainly beats the parking lot that Walmart was going to offer us.
Absolutely.
I wonder if there's anybody else in the audience or at the meeting that wishes to speak, since we have the floor open.
Yeah, was there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item?
And I don't see anybody, Madam Chair.
Would add that TWG did hold a neighborhood and neighbor adjoining property owner meeting on December 2nd as well. That was pretty well attended. They did it on site. Well, Titletown on site. And through that meeting, I talked to one person who was concerned, but not enough to make a comment on this proposal.
Okay. Well,
Make a motion to close the floor.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ravinsky to close the floor, second by Commissioner Bremer. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, any further discussion? Go ahead, Commissioner Ravinsky.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say that I appreciate all the hard work here, and I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Ravinsky, second by Commissioner Bremer. Any further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead with a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And then that'll move forward to the next, is the next city council meeting, is it the 21st? Okay, so the next city council meeting, December 21st. All right, and then on to item number 5, public hearing on a request to rezone 2160 Packerland Drive from low density residential to public institutional, submitted by Mike Larson on behalf of Beautiful Savior Evangelical Lutheran Church.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is actually my agenda item, if you'd like me to give a bit of a background on it. 1 second.
Yes, please.
Okay, so let me just minimize this a little bit here. All right, this is located on the west side. There is actually an error that I just saw in your packet. It's adjacent to the village of Ashwaubenon, not the village of Hobart. The subject parcel is in pink, and this is the Beautiful Savior Evangelical Lutheran Church. The submission for this rezone, it's currently zoned R1, and Mike Larson, on behalf of the church, has put this forward to the city to rezone to PI as a religious institution of the entire parcel. All adjacent property owners were notified within 200 feet. And as you can see over here, this is the entrance. They have one entrance on Red Fern off Packerland and also one on Winterberry. We have not received any written or verbal concerns or complaints. That is about it. So the rezone is to make it public institution instead of low density residential.
Okay, sounds so good. Thank you, Madison. So now with the public hearing, we're looking to hear from parties looking to speak in favor of this item. And again, if you'd state your name and address for the record. If you're calling in on internet audio, it's *6 to unmute. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this item? And is there anyone looking to provide information only? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the actionable item, item number 6, consideration with possible action on a request to rezone 2160 Packerland Drive from low density residential to public institutional, submitted by Mike Larson on behalf of Beautiful Savior Evangelical Lutheran Church.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving forward, the current zoning as you can see right here, like I said, was low density residential R1. It's primarily surrounded by R1 as well, and then a little bit of varied density residential R3. So technically the current land use of this religious institution right around here does not conform to our current zoning because it is, as you can see, listed as residential, and it is not being used as that. So I believe the application was also put forward to comply with our zoning and to actually clean up, the actual parcel itself. If we move into future land use, now this is a little bit interesting because in the comprehensive plan, it does kind of show half of it being semi-public, public institutional, and then half of it remaining residential. Now, when I spoke with the applicant, there was plans, because it is a fairly large parcel to, and this is all undeveloped open space, and this is the church. So there was plans for him to divide it, and he does not wish to move forward with that. So he'd like it all rezoned to PI. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the request. It doesn't conflict with the comprehensive plan, but actually helps the city clean up zoning.
Okay, thank you, Madison. We have any discussion amongst the commission or any questions for staff?
I guess, yeah, my question, just doing like a Google Drive here, looking around the lot, are there plans for future expansion in that area? Or I'm just kind of curious the reasoning on leaving that as vacant space. Staff, I don't know if you have that answer or if we need to open the floor to talk to the applicant.
I'm not sure if the applicant is on right now, but I believe from the conversations that I have had, they want to utilize that space for the church, for different functions, outdoor events, community events, and they don't wish to develop it at this time and divide it. So I don't know the future plans.
Since we don't appear to have anybody here from that applicant, I would just go ahead and move approval.
Second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Bremer and a second by Commissioner Daniels. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll go ahead with a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then that will move on then to the December 21st meeting for the Common Council. And moving on to item number 7, public hearing on a request to rezone property at 702-730 North Quincy Street and 708 Harvey Street from the General Industrial District to the Public Institutional District, submitted by Paul Davis, Kingdom Agenda Ministries, on behalf of Church of Living God International, Inc., property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll give you just a quick overview. There we go. So these are the lots themselves. There's six lots being proposed to rezone. They are sort of wedged in between University Avenue in the south, North Quincy on the west, and Harvey Street on the north. They all together equate to about 1.1 acres. If you remember back at your December Plan Commission, your earlier Plan Commission, a comprehensive plan amendment came through for this a much larger area to go to an other public or public designation. That was the impetus for this rezone as well. And it's actually the applicant is really requesting this corner property and this parking lot to go to that zoning so they can establish a religious institution. The additional 4 parcels, which you can see are this one, this one, this one, and then this long old railroad corridor, were included as staff to round off that block. So those are our requests, but it would take all 6 of these parcels, put them into a public institutional zoning to match the rest of the block.
Okay, thank you so much, David. All right, so now with public hearing, we're looking to hear from parties that are looking to speak in favor of this item.
I would like to speak in favor of the item. I'm a member of Kingdom Agenda Church, and as the
I'm sorry, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Oh, forgive me, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Kevin Heemstra. My address is 734 Chapel View Road, Apartment 3, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54311. And I would be in favor of this rezoning. I think the church would be an excellent addition to the neighborhood. We're a church that believes, we're very passionate about community involvement and reaching people, helping in any way we can, looking for ways to meet needs that may not necessarily be met at the present time, getting to know the people in the neighborhood, the surrounding community. So we really want to try and have a very positive impact in that area and in Green Bay in general. So I would be in favor of that.
Okay, thank you so much for your testimony. Was there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paula Jackson. I reside at 1681 Bond Street in Green Bay, 54303, and I too am in favor of this.
Okay, thank you so much for your testimony, Ms. Jackson.
My pleasure.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item?
My name is Jockey Davis, 2982 Clifford Court, 54311, and I highly am in favor of the zoning.
All right, thank you so much for your testimony, Ms. Davis. Is there anyone else?
Yes. Okay, my name is Charlie Davis. I live at 1360 Kingston Terrace, apartment 7, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54302. And I too are in agreement with the zoning.
Man.
All right, thank you so much for your testimony, Ms. Davis.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Cisse. My address is 936 Christiana Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54303. And I am in favor of the rezoning for the church to be rezoned to community. It's like, as Kevin stated before, we're here to serve the community, and it's right next to the bus station, which services the community as well. So it's nice and convenient for us to be able to reach a wider population.
All right. Thank you so much for your testimony, Ms. Cisse.
Barbara Davis. My address is 2982 Clifford Court, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54311. And I'm also in favor of the rezoning for this Kingdom Agenda Ministry Church.
All right, thank you so much for your testimony, Ms. Davis. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item?
Hello, my name is Jonathan Scott, and I live at 140 South Fish Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I approve also.
Okay, thank you so much for your testimony, Mr. Scott. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the actionable item, item number 8, consideration with possible action on a request to rezone property at 702-730 North Quincy Street and 708 Harvey Street from the General Industrial District to the Public Institutional District, submitted by Paul Davis, Kingdom Agenda Ministries, on behalf of Church of Living God International Incorporated property owner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman. So I kind of went into a little bit before. It is 6 parcels, a little over an acre. It's the last remaining parcels on this block that are still zoned industrial, which is the slide that I'm on now. You can see the green color is the Public Institutional District, primarily rezoned in 2006 to accommodate the transit garage. However, even the driveway to the transit garage comes out here onto Quincy, and those parcels are still zoned general industrial. I think it may have been an oversight at the time not to do them. However, we are cleaning that up now. Again, the impetus really for this zone change was Pastor Davis' request. However, it is truly kind of a cleanup. I'll go to the next one. This is the long-range future land use plan shows on the map as general industrial, but that was just changed to public institutional. And this is kind of a look of the site itself. So the site, all those parcels are outlined in red. And I guess the one thing that staff would like to point out, the general plan for the entire area north of Harvey is really to go into a light industrial or an industrial type usage as you get to Webster, and then Webster would go as a residential transitional to Webster. However, when we look at this corner, and this tavern here is gone now, that's the driveway for the transit center, these properties are not very large, and maybe easier to go back to this aerial. So they're pretty small, they're pretty divided up. So even for an industrial type use, they're not situated very well for it. They couldn't accommodate much of a use. Pastor Davis recommended a religious institution, or his requested religious institution use. Is that the most ideal spot for that, knowing in the future they'll have a lot of industrial around there? Maybe not the most ideal spot, but it's definitely not the worst. It fits in with the public institutional zoning. And from staff standpoint, the logical use of that small part of land is probably in the long range future going to be expansion to the transit center or some other type of public or institutional type use. Being that the church is a permitted use in that district, we are pretty comfortable with the zone change, and definitely more comfortable than retaining a general industrial zoning. So the one point I would bring out here, out of these 6 parcels, 5 of them will remain compliant with the proposed use and the existing uses with the public institutional zoning. This parcel right here at 712 North Quincy is an auto repair center. that use would become legal non-conforming, which have grandfathered basically, allowed to remain. It's full natural life. If it chose to expand, that could potentially be an issue. But when you look at the site itself, it is a very tight site. There's not much expansion area. It's probably short of parking currently. So we are pretty comfortable with this rezone request, and we are, as far as staff goes, recommending approval. I don't have that slide in here, but we are. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, David. Were there any questions for staff or any discussion amongst the commission?
If not, I move to approve.
I would second that motion. We were fortunate to hear from the Davises before when we made the amendment to the comprehensive plan, and I'm convinced that they're making good use of this land.
All right, so a motion by Commissioner Daniels, a second by Commissioner Bremer. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then that will move forward to City Council for December 21st. And on to item number 9, public hearing on a request to authorize a conditional use permit for a shelter use in an office residential district at 700 East Walnut Street, submitted by Rob Fraser, St. John Evangelist Homeless Shelter Incorporated property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can give a real brief overview. 700 East Walnut is the southeast corner of Quincy and East Walnut, just east of South Monroe. The property is currently a commercial office building used for as the former Micah Center, I guess. The proposal is for a women's shelter facility at this site to occupy one half of the building. The property is zoned office residential, so a shelter facility needs a conditional use permit in order to operate on the site.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul. And just because I have this question for you. So was that something that the Micah Center had previously?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Was that something that the Micah Center had previously, that CUP for that property?
No, they didn't have residents as far as I know. It was an office use, so that was permitted under the OR. But now because they're adding residents or guests, that needs that CUP.
Got it, perfect, thank you. All right, so now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from parties that are looking to speak in favor of this item.
Hi, this is Craig Cornell from Zize Construction. I've been working closely with the St. John's people in the organization, and the whole idea here is to support and help the women in our community, the homeless women. So half of this building is will be a women's homeless shelter, and the other half will be for women's programs, day programs throughout the whole year. So that's really what it is. And then I don't know if Lexi wants to add anything, but Lexi definitely is. I saw she was on the line, but that's the nuts and bolts of it, and it's really not changing a whole lot. And of course, you know, the women's shelter functions start November 1st. Till I think it's April 30th. So, and that's all I have to say about it.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Cornell. Was there anyone else looking to speak in favor of this item?
Or I can go ahead and speak. Alexia Wood with St. John's, 411 St. John Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54301. And so just to clarify, so I think it's been well established with Planning Commission that we do not operate with capacity. That's always been the heart and intent of St. John's. So as a result, we've had that offsite overflow model since our inception back in 2005, that on nights that building capacity, that shelter need exceeds building capacity, we would be utilizing downtown churches and rotate guests to those locations for the sleeping hours. And so we believe by taking our previous Micah Center location, half the building would become our Wellspring Daytime Resource Center, so our resource center for women, and then creating women-specific overnight shelter. It allows us to respond to the gender-specific needs, but it also ensures that we don't need to utilize offsite overflow anymore, which is, I wouldn't say disrupting the downtown area, but certainly causing groups of typically men to get up and be uprooted around 10 p.m. to downtown area churches. So instead, men are always housed within the main shelter location, which we've heard from the neighborhood certainly would be of service. And then also it's our intent that with this, we'd be able to better respond to city officials who need to respond to our locations. And so whether that's fire or EMT or law enforcement, instead of them trying to identify which offsite overflow location we are at, we would consistently just have our men in the main shelter, our women at this site. And we felt this was consistent with other plans in the neighborhood where Jackie Nitschke had created female-specific recovery homes. We just felt this was the most natural way to address that in a way that meets the long-term needs.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Ms. Wood. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item? Is there
I'm sorry. I'm trying to work the technology here a little bit. This is Rob Fraser, 612 Stewart Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54301. I am in favor of supporting the city's desire to have homeless people taken care of at night. And our women are as important as anyone. And I want to make sure that we take care of them in the best way possible. For not only mental health and everything else, but the idea of having them separate from men in a homeless environment and a shelter environment is very positive for our women that are in this situation.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Frazier. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this item? Is there anyone wishing to provide information only? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the actual item, item number 10, consideration with possible action on a request to authorize a conditional use permit for a shelter use in an office residential district at 700 East Walnut Street, submitted by Rob Fraser, St. John Evangelist Homeless Shelter Incorporated property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, property highlighted in red is about ½ acre in size. The subject property, 700 East Walnut. The building is up towards the street. There's parking behind. There's also an adjoining parking lot just across the alley. Within this neighborhood, there's quite a variety of uses. There's some single family, 2-family, and multifamily uses. There's some commercial across the street north across Walnut. And as was mentioned before, the Nitschke Center, I think the Planning Commission saw that this past year, the women's recovery facility just on the corner, northeast corner of Quincy and Walnut. So it's quite a variety of land uses in this particular neighborhood. The subject property is zoned office residential as well as pretty much surrounding properties. There is some neighborhood commercial to the west, but mostly office residential. The city's comprehensive plan recommends medium intensity retail, office, and housing. The current zoning certainly is consistent with that, that designation. Attached within your agenda is an operational plan provided by the applicant. There is also a guest handbook that's provided. What's on the screen right now is a kind of a footprint of the building and kind of how it is separated. The blue portion would remain the kind of commercial end or business end of it, so to speak. The green would be the shelter facility. As mentioned before, this is a temporary facility, housing about 58 beds or so. Along with uses like this, we'd like to see a preliminary building analysis. The applicant has reached out to an architect, and we do have some conceptual approval, I guess, so to speak, that lines up the building to the proposed use. So from a zoning building code, they kind of line up and bode well for each other. We did notify affected property owners within 200 feet. We didn't receive any calls or questions necessarily. Staff is recommending approval of this request. I can briefly go through the recommendations. The first one is the capacity of the facility, up to 58. We're also going to allow an ability to increase that based on the International Building Code. So if there is room available, that can be expanded based on the architect's proposal. I would like to add one addition to A, which is that this is a temporary facility from November 1 to April 30th. So I'd like to add that as a part of item A. These other conditions that you see are rather familiar, maybe. We have used these in the past at other shelter facilities. Item B addresses the discontinuance of this operation. This really is for St. John's. If it ceases or their operation changes hands, another conditional use will have to be required by somebody else to run that operation. Item C has to do with, I guess, complaints or questions that come up related to facilities and police calls. It's the ability to pull back this request to the Plan Commission and Council to review any complaints or issues with the site. Item D has to do with the operating plan. Again, that's provided. We'd like to have that as a condition of the approval, that the use is tied to that plan if they abide by that plan. Item E is all the other regulations of the municipal code. That's kind of standard language. And then finally, we'd like to have a site plan submitted and reviewed and approved for the occupancy of the building.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul.
Are we at the actionable item now?
We are, yes.
Good, then if I could ask a couple questions of Paul. It'll come as no surprise to you all, since I'm a recovering alcoholic myself, that I heartily approve of this land use, having it close to the Nitschke Center's women's recovery. Having the site associated with Wellspring just makes wonderful sense in support, particularly of women who have not yet managed to deal adequately and fully with their addictions. This becomes a place of last resort, and there are not other places in town that are available. In fact, that is one of the requirements for admission, that you be able to attest that you don't have any other place to go. I'm so glad that St. John's has such a long career of serving the population of homeless people, and particularly that Ms. Wood has been such a successful manager of the main St. John's Center. The issues that are laid down here, the requirement, make perfectly good sense. Paul, you were very helpful in saying what is required for dormitory space. And I have really only one concern, and that is, I believe, although there are 8 showers available for the number of guests that are anticipated up to 59, I believe, it looks like the toilets are only 6 in that side. Will the people who are guests overnight have access into the Wellspring side to be able to use the additional toilets that are there?
I'm not sure that I can speak to that directly if that's directed towards me. It
was, Paul, yes.
Yeah, I mean, though,
curious as to whether or not we had adequate facilities here for the requirement for the number of people?
Sure. I mean, I think that's a good question, but a very detailed question. I'm not sure I have a good answer. You know, again, we've had that preliminary building analysis that's provided by the architect. We feel confident that there is a competent design that'll be provided, but I don't have that level of expertise that I can guarantee you. But as part of the review of the building plan, that will be addressed. Operational, I guess Lexi could speak to, you know, how that would work functionally, but the building itself will have to meet building code.
Okay. And then you indicated that you wanted that first point of approval to note the period of time from the 1st of November until April. I believe that the request is also to allow use of it in cases where there's an extraordinary wind chill factor that comes down to at least 40 degrees. And there was a little bit of confusion on my part in the report as to whether it was to be anything colder than 40 degrees. There was a minus in front of the 40, and I don't think we're talking about minus 40 degrees. So I guess with that in mind, when others have had a chance to ask you any questions they might have, I would want to open the floor so that we might hear from Ms. Wood. So I would move to, I'll go ahead and move to open the floor then, since nobody seems to have another question right now.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Bremer to open the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Corbistax. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, go ahead then with those questions, Commissioner Bremer. I guess if Ms. Wood can answer them.
Thank you. It's good to see you again, Alexia.
It's good to see you, Sid.
I wanted to double check. Am I understanding correctly that apart from the normal period of time from the beginning of November until April, you would also want to be able to use this as an emergency shelter if we had, heaven forbid, strange climatic changes that took us below 40 degrees?
So the operational plan, what I believe you're referencing is the extreme wind chill. So it is a reference to negative 40. So that specific part of the operational plan are severe cold weather policies that talk about when the wind chill drops, that we don't close our shelter facilities during the day. At the women's site, that won't be as pertinent since the daytime resource is there. It's really applicable to our men's shelter, that instead of asking them to leave and go to Micah Center, that we would just keep them in shelter. So this request is that this would be our women's shelter November 1st through April 30th, regardless of temperature. And then in the off season, we have that summer safe sleep model, that scaled down access to shelter model. We would continue to operate with that. Right now, the intention being in a co-ed environment at 411 St. John Street.
Okay. And
Sid, did you want me to speak to the bathrooms as well?
If you would be so kind, thank you.
So currently our women, and so this is part of really what led us to this direction, our current shelter facility, just due to the growth we've seen in our female population, twice now in my nearly 10 years there, we've had 100% growth in our female population served. And our bathroom facilities at our main location, while they meet the overall shelter numbers needs for showers and toilets, specific to women accessible facilities, we currently have 2 showers and 2 toilets to service all of our women. And so I know that the model looked to increase that significantly. That is something that certainly we'd be willing to work with the Planning Commission and with the city to make sure that those numbers align. And we certainly wouldn't be opposed to offering access to the bathrooms in the Wellspring piece of the building if that was the best way to meet that need.
Excellent, thank you. That's all I have.
And this is Craig Cornell from Zize Construction, and I can speak to the toilets that I know the architect, Carl Whitkins, is on the line as well. And that is actually a function of code. So they actually are designed per code. requirements. But as Lexi said, she would be willing to open up the Wellspring side if that wouldn't suffice. But anyway, I just wanted to add that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lisa, are you muted?
Did that answer all your questions, Commissioner Bremer? Okay.
Thank you, yes.
Was there anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this item as long as the floor is open? Otherwise, I'd certainly entertain a motion to close the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bremer, second by Alder Corpustats to close the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, back to regular order. And I would certainly entertain a motion.
A motion to approve. I would be delighted to make that and to express my pleasure that we no longer have a whole bunch of people in the city objecting to this necessary addition to our community services.
I would second.
All right, so a motion by Commissioner Bremer and a second by Commissioner Ravinsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so then moving forward unanimously to the December 21st meeting of City Council. And on to item number 11, consideration with possible action on a request to discontinue and release temporary ingress, egress easement granted across lots 7 and 8 and outlot 1 of Platt of Rail Yard submitted by the City of Green Bay Department of Public Works.
Thank you, Chair. So this takes us back to the rail yard where Dave just did a PUD amendment. So the zoning over this entire area is a PUD. This is the general area where the temporary easement was. This was for access during construction of Donald Driver Way and Bond Street. With the completion of this construction, this temporary easement is to be released and discontinued. So that's what this action will be doing.
All right. Any discussion amongst the commission or any questions for staff?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Corpustats, second by Commissioner Ravinsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that moves forward unanimously. And moving on to item number 12, consideration with possible action on a request for the release of a utility easement discontinuance located at 1440 and 1450 Velp Avenue, submitted by Mao and Associates LLP.
Hi, so this is another easement discontinuance. So there is no public hearing, so we will just move forward into the action item. This is located on the west side on Velp Avenue. As you can see, it's right in this parcel. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but this little pink line is the utility easement that they are asking, or the discontinuance that they are asking for on 1440, 1450 Velp Avenue. This is brought forward by Mao and Associates on behalf of, and you can see it on this side as well, on behalf of Herkman Mechanical. The entire area is generally GI, general industrial and commercial. I can show you the zoning as well, but it is all owned by Herkman Mechanical, this kind of L-shaped area. So they have a commercial front that they, I believe, do sales, and then I think some warehousing in the back. So this would be on the Donald driver's side, as you can see over here, the back side, and then the front is the Velp Avenue. And it is actually pushed off a little bit from the road with some landscaping. So currently it is kind of light industrial right now. Across from it is the cemetery, and again, behind is more industrial. Our future land use, and you can also reference the Velp Avenue area-wide plan. It does call for commercial along the front, and as you can even see from the initial images, it does look fairly, commercial retail sales at the front, and then more of their services for HVAC, plumbing, equipment is located at the back. Now, with this easement right in through here, they are requesting this because they would like to construct on the easement, and currently with this utility easement, they are not allowed to. So they're asking for staff to support this and the city in basically endorsing this vacation so that they can construct on it. Agencies internally and externally were notified about this, as well as adjacent property owners. Specifically DPW and Diggers Hotline, I believe, were the main stakeholders, and they have no facilities and no objection to this request. So with this, kind of similar to Stephanie's easement discontinuance, when it's no longer needed, often we will see these applications. And with that, staff is recommending approval upon the request. Prior to any construction on this easement, they will still have to go through all the protocols for site plan approvals, building approvals, and meet our zoning code. And we are recommending approval of this.
Thank you so much for that. Go ahead, Commissioner Vinsky.
Yeah, just to give a little bit of background on this property too. A few years ago, the Redevelopment Authority had sold 2 properties that are adjacent to this to Herkman Mechanical for the use of expansion. Herkman, they've been in the community for a long time. Their facility there, they've already been doing some expansion, and they're really looking to make some pretty good investment in the city here. Just wanted to throw that out there. I have no issue with the legal side of this. I think it's a good idea to allow their business to grow in our city. So. I would also make a motion to approve if there is no other comments.
All right, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Vinsky and a second by Alder Corpus Dax. Do we have any further discussion amongst the commission? All right, hearing none, I'll go ahead with a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward then to City Council for December 21st. Informational Director's Report. Mr. Steck-Schulte.
Good evening, everybody. Happy Victory Monday. Since that's, I can say that now with all due work-related, awesome, it's greatness. So my apologies to any Bear fans who may be in the room, but it's the same old for you guys. So you guys should be used to it by now. So
rub it in, Neil.
You got to do it while you can, Sid, because the wheel's going to turn sooner or later and it's going to come back and get us. So we're going to enjoy it while we can. So sooner or later. Just a quick, obviously want to thank everybody for, obviously here we are in December 2021 already. It's been an incredibly productive year, especially for something in pandemic conditions. Between it was the Merge and Shipyard project, the new tune-in project at University Heights, the 200 North Monroe project, the Legacy Hotel project, the Baycare expansion, the Easttown Mall project, all just really pretty big. Any year, those would be big projects. I think this year, we're especially excited to have those done. I think you add to the list all of the different housing projects we've suddenly got going on, especially the affordable housing that we're looking to try to make some strides in the community. Really has been a phenomenal year, and certainly on behalf of the staff, I want to certainly express my thanks to the commission for all your guidance and help here this past year. It really has been an honor to be on board for first year and to work on it with such a great staff and such a great commission and great projects. So thank you to everyone for that. We're not resting on our laurels. We're already looking up for looking into 2022 is going to be as busy or busier probably than this year. Whether that be the Badger sheet metal site with Impact 7, the One Astor project, we're looking at an affordable housing project possibly on 216 Military Avenue with folks remember that was the former Shopko site with the Martins. We're already working on a project there. The JBS site development, the 222 Cherry Street project possibly coming in, adding 3 or 4 stories to that building, working on that agreement right now. RFP for the Adams Street lot next to the Bay Lake building. And obviously everybody's favorite topic, the coal piles. We're going to keep working with the county to try to make some progress on that one. Add that on top of that, we're probably going to be updating our comprehensive plan this next year in 2022. Dave Buck's going to be our fearless leader on that one and really help us get us going there. Probably looking at 2 or 3 new tax increment districts, industrial park expansion, and probably some more ordinance updates as well. So kind of, our usual types of things. So it's going to be a busy 2022 again. So we appreciate your continued effort and guidance as we kind of go. There won't be much of a lull, I don't think, here. We're gonna go into 22 as fast as we're leaving 2021. So I just do want to say, in all sincerity, thank everyone for their assistance this past year, and looking forward to a great 2022.
Thank you so much, Neil. All right, sounds good. And then it looks like date of the next meeting is January 13th, 2020.
I would just, I want to strike Neil's comment about the Bears ever being good from the record. But with that,
good for you.
I have no complaints, Ken.
Point of order.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rinsky, second by Commissioner Brimmer to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays. I was just going to say that we won't see you until after Christmas and New Year's.
So we'll see you next year.